Welcome to Tech Just Right. So, this is a podcast that we're newly starting, which is going to be a sweet spot between product, AI, engineering, and also, some of the marketing and growth. So, we are trying to give you just the information that is right without all the fluff. And we are a couple of, tech enthusiasts, and we would love to bring our ideas and insights to you in this platform. And we are newly trying this out. Feel free to support us and give us feedback on how we should improve. Um, Bali, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure, definitely. Hi, everyone. I'm Malapan, a passionate software professional and a practitioner. A warm welcome to Tech Just Right. Where we make tech simple, easy to understand, and powerful. So, now no jargon, just clear, actionable advice to help tech work just right for you. So, I'm excited to dive into latest trends, groundbreaking innovations, practical solutions in the tech world. Let's get into it. Thanks, Al.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. So I also completely, forgot to introduce myself. So I'm Al. So your go-to point of contact for anything on the product side as well as on the growth side. So I love AI. We all love AI. So yeah, let's dive into it. Go ahead, Wally.
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, software development. Is the critical phase where our ideas and requirements are transformed into actionable code that powers this digital world, right? So, with the recent surge of generative AI, large language models, so it is completely revolutionizing how developers approach their coding tasks. So, sounds interesting, right? So, there are AI-powered tools that are making coding faster, smarter, and efficient than ever before. So that's our topic today. In this session, we are going to explore more about the world of coding models and their capabilities and look at some of the exciting real world examples and how it is shaping up the future of software development. Yeah. So let's get into it. Yeah, coding models. So these are specialized types of large language models. So these are designed specifically for understanding and generating programming code. So how it works. So think of this way. So if you want someone to perform better, they need to be well trained, right? So the same principle applies to coding models. So they are well trained on massive data sets that contain vast amount of source code from platforms like GitHub and others. So this training allows them to understand syntax and logic just like a developer as like you and me, right? So they learn all the roles of coding and how different elements of code fit together, and it generates code based on the input or requirements. It can write new code that solves problems, and which can meet our specific goals. So and it can suggest improvements, recommend optimizations, corrections. At the core, right, at the core, these code models are built on transformer architecture which helps them to process and understand complex relationship between the different code components. So yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, sorry to interject, Wally. So in this case, right? So the major thing that I want to stress on for our audience is like, think about the productivity. The productivity gain that you will get as part of this, right? So in the past, like it took you like multiple weeks to write, a certain piece of an application. Now you could write in hours, right? And also you will be able to automate all the unit tests and all that stuff. So basically, this is a huge productivity gain as Wally is taking us through the types and how it actually is constructed and what's the architecture and all that stuff. The major thing that you should take away is like it's gonna save a lot of time for you, and you should be able to innovate a lot faster. Go ahead,
Yes,
Wally.
absolutely. Yeah. So, can you pick up the screen so we can talk about the difference between the large language models and the coding models?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, yeah. So, for easier understanding, I created a small piece of diagram to best explain the key differences between the large language model and coding models. So here I have made it into three buckets. One is the purpose and the training data and the task focus, right? So the purpose of large language model is just to focus on the general language. It is designed for general language task, general language. But the coding models, it is designed for programming language tasks. So the training data, it is completely different. So it is trained on the vast amount of text data sets. In such a way it can generate text, it can write essays, it can answer questions based on the trained data set. It can respond. These are all the task focus. So the text generation, text summarization, and the text translation. So these are all the task focus of large language models. Whereas in coding models, so the it is trained on vast amount of source code from various platforms like GitHub and others, and their task focus is code specific. So it is code generation, code translation, and the debugging, code optimization. So these are all the three different areas where we can differentiate how coding models is different from large language models. So these are the, in essence, it's a specialized large language model just for the code specific tasks.
Awesome. Awesome. So yeah, I mean, this overall code models, right? So from my perspective, it is basically kind of creating this whole ecosystem of software development, because
Yeah.
it is able to understand the code, it is able to generate the code, and also it is able to manipulate the code, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
it takes away all of the three major tasks that is involved with the code development. And yeah, so I also want to talk a little bit about the large language models, right? Because this is connected to like what we were talking about earlier. There are different types of AI code models, and LLMs are pretty famous now, right?
Yeah.
When people talk about Gen AI and LLMs, GPT-3 and GPT-4 completely revolutionized the whole industry,
Yes.
right? So it can generate the code, it can totally understand the code across multiple programming languages. And again, I would love you to talk about that later in the cycle. There are two other things, which also I want to add to this, right? So there are transformer-based models as well, because BERT, GPT-3 are particularly, very good at code completion, right?
Yeah.
And also, if it can give you any kind of prompts around, how do you generate the code.
Yes.
Um, so I think the code repo that you talked about, the GitHub and all that, probably we should take the audience a little bit deeper as well. In this case, what are these other code repos that you know they can use their models to train on, so that it actually adapts to their own company's coding tasks, rather than something very generic.
Yeah. So it can be specific with their organization rules, right? Organization rules and the best practices which they are following.
Exactly. Yeah, because generic code will work, but there are certain coding standards that every organization follows, and also but there are different types of security practices, based on the industry that your company is in, right? So healthcare, financial, there are different industries where you could have like a lot of stricter rules where you should abide by, and all of your code has to be tested for that, including penetration testing and all that stuff.
Yes. Agree.
Cool. Cool. So let me know. I can go over some of the real world examples as well. Um, if you want to talk about something else, what do you think?
Yeah, we can go with the real world examples. What are all the uh, things which
Okay.
is transforming the software development? Yeah, that sounds interesting.
Sounds good. Sounds good. So yeah, I'll cover the real world examples based off of my knowledge, but feel free to add things to it, Wally.
Yeah, yeah,
And
sure.
also, yeah, so then you can go into the applications in a much deeper way.
Yes.
Cool. Perfect. So the major one, right? I mean, everyone is talking about is the Copilot, right? GitHub Copilot, because this is a basic. This is nothing but an AI-powered code completion tool. So which will give you a code snippet, right? So basically, whenever you're thinking about writing some logic, it gives you code snippets, and sometimes the full function, the entire function based off the context. You just have to give the prompt to the AI, saying what you're actually planning to develop, and based off of your snippet or your context, the full snippet or the full function will be generated for you. The other one
Yeah.
that I came across, which was also interesting, is Tab 9. So this is another code assistant that actually provides good intelligent code completions. It supports like multiple programming languages. And we can never skip over OpenAI. OpenAI is the industry standard now. So OpenAI's Codex is the next best one. which kind of powers the GitHub Copilot, which I talked
Yeah.
about earlier,
Right.
from the back end. And also, it can. The interesting part about this, which I came across, was like it can translate the natural language into code. So you can give all of the commands and prompts using natural language, and you can get the code out of it. The other bigger project was the Google's T5, which is nothing but a text-to-text transformer model. You could use that in the code generation process, and you can use it within your applications for code generations and all that. There was another company, which was doing some interesting research on this area, just DeepMind. So DeepMind's AlphaCode is another one which you could use. Um, Outside of these primary things, you could also call, if your company is big on AWS, or any of the cloud services like Oracle, or Google, right? So you can have their own services which calls the models directly, right? So I've seen a couple of implementations where people were calling Anthropic Claude Sonnet through Amazon's Bedrock, right? So you create the instance for Bedrock in your AWS, and you basically call these models to generate the code. So that, again, you could use Anthropic's models, you could use OpenAI's models, and I've also heard about the Mistral AI models, and you could use Llama as well. So Llama is from Meta. It's an open source model which you could use as well. So these are the ways you can access these, because this is heavily monetized area, and very operationalized as well. So now every model has the number of calls. Based off of that, there is a different pricing, which we should go into in a different episode, how these pricings differ between different models. But based off of your use cases and code generation, technically, you can prefer one over the other. You should look over all the specs and decide what works for you.
Yeah, it was a
Cool.
good, it was a good list. And I want to add on more. So I have came across Oracle Code Assist. It's a code companion, AI code companion, and it really works with and AI driven just suggestions for the code generation, code completion, and it is primarily tailored for Oracle environments, right? So it was I mean it was also another interesting one which I came across. It was good.
Yeah, absolutely. There you go, folks. Technically, if you have, if you use like a lot of Oracle applications and Oracle environments, right? I think, if you going with the same ecosystem, actually, helps a lot. So yeah, probably, you should take a look at Oracle Code Assist and see, how that works for you. So the major types of code models that we're talking about is like the first big one is code generation, right? So AI can completely generate the code snippet for your functions, programs, all of that based off of any kind of descriptions and the programming language you want. You want in Python, Java, so all of that can be generated today. So the next one is code completion, right? So once you generate a code, so you want these models to complete or suggest from the developer perspective, right? So this will be something like improving the productivity, or reducing the number of errors, things like that. So code completion is the next big part. The third part is code translation, right? So sometimes, right, so you want to translate the code from a certain language to another language in order to make it fit, or make it fit for your ecosystem, right? So in this case, AI can do that. A code completely written in Java can be migrated to Python or some other language, right? Golang, things like that. You will be able to totally do that. And in the past, like it took about like multiple weeks and multiple months to actually do this kind of stuff
Yeah.
without breaking the functionality. And everyone is like pretty scared about doing this, because you might miss some logic, miss some functionality, things like that. But now with the AI, the first step is easy, but you still have to go through your doing all of the due diligence testing and all that stuff. The next
Yes.
one is the bug detection, right? So technically, you already have a legacy code, or a bunch of things that was written for a period of time. So now you want to identify the potential bugs and fixes, right? Not just bug detection, but also bug fixing. AI can help you with that, right? So that's the next big different type. The other one I want to talk about is very, very stressful for other programmers. It's a documentation. right? Adding comments, documentation for the code. That's always the best practice, but most of the time, due to the tough timelines and tight deliveries, project timelines and all that stuff will actually lead the developers to not do it, right? Because they just like develop the code and then push it to production. So in this case, code documentation AI can help you with it. So this will create clean code, and also it helps the future engineers who come into the project to actually go through it and easily understand it, right? So AI will be able to automatically generate the comments and documentations in code. The last one I want to talk about is the code review, right? So AI can technically analyze all of your pull requests, summarize all of the code changes. Sometimes, right, we use that for some kind of a executive report, right? Like, hey, what are the changes that are going in for this specific release? So you will be able to do that by going through it, and the AI can, easily summarize you with all the code changes. So there is one specific pull request analyzer I came across. It was Merlin's pull request analyzer. So this was using something called as Vertex AI. It was pretty fun. I looked at all the summaries. It was pretty fun. If with that, right, so you'll be able to fully see like what is actually going in. Sometimes before the holiday freezes and all that stuff, since we are around the Christmas season and New Year's, before the code freeze, a lot of people submit the request to actually push their code into the production just before the freeze starts, right? At that time, you really want to look at all of these changes, like what they're actually trying to do, because during the holidays, no one really want to, if the system is crashed, no one really want to be on the call fixing it. So yeah, so these are the places where AI can totally help you.
Yes.
Anything you want to add, Bully?
Yeah, definitely. There are a few more application areas. So one is the learning and education. So see, let's how we are helping beginners with coding problems. So this AI-driven solutions offer instant feedback for the beginners. So in the learning and education perspective, it was very very important for the beginners to get trained better, right? With the coding syntax, coding context. So it offers instant feedback. That's amazing, right? Um,
Absolutely. So you can become a very tenured programmer over a period of time with all these different feedbacks, right?
yeah,
Being a newbie or a new engineer. So this would help you a lot, and also it actually improves your coding style and practice and all that.
yeah. And another interesting area is the automated testing. So it has the power to generate test cases or analyzing our test coverage. So these things are little more better than what we cover as part of our testing, right? That was another area which was really amazing.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, so some of these things, we never get time to actually do it. So in this case, AI can totally help us do these things and also do it in a much better way or at a scalable way, I would say.
Yeah, right.
Cool. Cool. Let's dive into the applications. So, Wally, you want to take us through, some more additional, examples and applications into it?
Yeah, so we pretty much talked about the learning and education, testing, documentation, and yeah, in terms of optimization, right, improving the code performance. So as you talked about, the potential issues it can detect as well as it can alarm us early. So it helps us improving the code performance as well as the security aspect. So that is very very important as part of the code, how it is scalable and how it is secured, right? So those areas are the other important application areas of these code models.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah. So I would also want to address, all of these challenges as well. But let me know. Maybe, once you want to go into that topic.
Yeah, we can get into the challenges as we covered most of the aspects of code models. Challenges is the another important aspect. We can go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Let's go. Let's go ahead. Right. So since we are talking about like a lot of the positive things, we also want to create some caution around like what everyone should look out for. So AI code models overall, right? So it is very powerful, promising, and we all agree on that. And at least me and Wally firsthand, we've seen the impact. And you guys, if you haven't already, should definitely give it a try. So it's really powerful. And when we talk about the powerful technology, right, always, so it comes with some challenges all the time, right? The first one we should talk about is like the quality and the security concerns, right? So this includes the privacy and all that. So let me also break it down. So the first one is the insecure code generation. So AI models, gives you the output code, right? But now this code could have bugs, right? So most of the time, you should imagine, there is bug, and you should definitely review that. So because this could lead if you directly push it to production. Assume in a way that AI generates a code, you directly push it to production, right? So if there is any vulnerabilities that could lead to exploitation, right? So yeah, a specific hacker can totally, take leverage of that and do some kind of a full-scale malicious exploitation. So the second one is unpredictability, right? So AI, when we talk about AI, there is always a black box. I talked to Wally quite, a lot about this offline. So AI is a black box, right? So there is a black box nature to it. So when it comes to the decision making process, so, you could see some subtle bugs or subtle vulnerabilities that are not immediately apparent. So when you review the code, you might be amazed, but you have to, review it very deeply in order to identify these, because there will be some subtle bugs. The other one is embedded vulnerabilities, right? So when we talk about the security part of it, so AI always incorporates some kind of insecure coding practices because it's being trained by tons and tons of training data, and you never know what all of these codes are actually secure uh, coding. It follows a secure coding practice, right? So it also trains on some insecure coding or some basic things. So there could be insecure coding practice as part of this. So you should be able to review and identify that. So basically, the AI development groups are actually working on developing another type of AI models, which actually reviews the code and identifies these embedded vulnerabilities as we speak. But yeah, so we'll get there soon, I believe. But
Yeah.
for now, I would say go ahead and review it. Anything you want to add, Vali?
Yes, one more thing, the code can be ambiguous, right? So that is making difficult for models to determine the correct output. That is one of the important thing which I wanted to add on. And another thing which I wanted to call out is generalization. Models can perform really well in the common scenarios, but it can be falter with edge cases. So that also we need to take care of.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So So I think ambiguity is a big deal, and also you have to think about all of these cases because you are in the business, and the model is going to give you something generic. So since you are in the business, you might know some of these corner cases and all that way better than the AI model. So yeah, that's totally true. So let's also talk about the performance and optimization issues, right? So that is the next level of challenges that we should talk about. So one is the performance visibility, right? So there is always a lack of performance visibility. So AI generators usually don't provide like a real-time feedback, right? How it actually impacts the code performance. So you should think about that. Though it is not very apparent, so you should think about how your code is actually going to perform, even though it is generated by AI. And that leads me to the next step, which is the slower runtime performance, right? So because this is based off a lot of studies that was done in over a period of time. So in this case, the studies indicate that AI-powered code may have significantly slower runtime performance, right, compared to a human-written code. So you have to think about optimizing that. And also, AI doesn't specialize in anything, right? It is very generic. So we could train the AI to be specialized in a specific domain. If you're doing that, then I think you should be fine. But if not, if you're using something like a generic Copilot or a code assist, like softwares, or in this case, the tools, these AI tools are not specifically optimized for your domain. So you should think about your own domain, and you have to think about the issues that comes with it. So you should be able to fix the code based off of that. And also, we were talking about the contextual and creative limitation as well, right? So in this case, AI could completely understand your context in a different way, right? So it doesn't have a full context understanding, right? So in this case, you have to give a little bit more clarity in your prompts so that the AI can get the full context and the broader opportunity, the full objective of the project or full objective of the application that you're developing, so that AI can give you better code. So in this case, if it is not aligned with the context, I would say based off of your review, you should be able to try different prompts and all that. So think about that. You could get context, completely a lack of contextual code from AI. And also AI creativity is another thing, right? So AI driven tools, usually are very good at automation and doing repetitive tasks and stuff like that. But when it comes to innovation or coming up with some amazing unconventional solution, AI is still not really best, right? So you should think about that. So when you review your code or you're trying to come up with some kind of a brand new innovative solution. Cool. The other one is the complexity. So when you go with complex problems, so AI will, since AI is not really specialized in those areas, right? Or it's not domain specialized, it's not specialized on a specific skill. So what will happen is like it might not be able to solve some of these complex problems. You might get some code which is not what you want. So yeah, you should be able to assess that based off of how you're getting it. Anything you want to add, Wally?
I think you have covered pretty much all the different aspects.
Cool.
So yeah, we can proceed with the developer takeaways, and we can share like links
Awesome.
how they can get started.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let's do that.
So yeah, developer takeaways. So I would say from my perspective, like it increased the speed of application development. So leveraging this AI powered coding models to automate repetitive tasks, generate boilerplate code, and get instant suggestions. It is speeding up your development process significantly and adopting best practices for software creation. So, and I completely agree with Al about reiterating the prompt in such a way like it can generate a code which is specific to your application goals, right? So that is far most important. Yeah. So you wanted to add on?
Yeah. So the other interesting thing I was thinking about, right? It's just like developers. I mean, once you start using AI, what will happen is you might become highly dependent on AI over a period of time. So without AI, you will not be able to write the code. That will be a point where you have to think about how to avoid that over reliance, right? Because it is potentially eroding your skills. So something to think about, because in this case, that's exactly what is happening with ChatGPT and the usage and all that, right? More and more people are tend to use AI in a daily basis. So the studies show that who start using 5 days in a week, then it becomes like 5 times in a day. And now there are people who are using like close to 20, 25 times per day. So it becomes over reliance. So it applies for all of the developers. Just an FYI.
Yeah, agree.
Cool. Yeah, think about integrating AI into all of your development environments. I know IDE plugins and stuff are still waiting to be released by some of these major companies. So yeah, that would be super helpful for you, because now you will be able to get all of the code suggestions directly in the IDE where you guys are developing. So yeah, I think that is still there. So because right now you just have to copy paste from different spots, and also the flow is missing. I think over a period of time, I think all of that toolings will be developed, and we will be the first to actually inform you for sure.
Yeah, the in VS Code, right? So they can use GitHub Copilot. So we can share in the description how they can immediately get started and see the actual power of AI code assistance. So yeah, we can share it in the description. Definitely, everyone has to try out, and you should provide us the feedback.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I think guys, since this is our first episode, we just want to keep it very simple. So we talked about what AI code models are, what are the types, and what are the applications, and also we went a little bit into some of these challenges that the AI code models poses, right? So now, yeah, so as Wally was suggesting, I'll definitely post the link for testing it out. So you guys should definitely give it a try. It's amazing. Once you see the power of it, you can never go back. And also, feel free to share your feedback on our podcast. We are trying to do this as a video podcast as well as a audio one. So we'll try to upload, quite often. And thanks for supporting us, and we welcome your feedback. Have a good holidays, everyone, and we are very grateful to do this.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.